see unit 4, okay, interpretation. You said rules of interpretation, right?
Yes, ma'am, interpretation of statute, everything, because ma'am, I'm doing that unit right now.
Okay, yeah, fine. So we will see interpretation of statutes. Again, interpretation, when we talk about it, it's nothing but understanding or finding meaning of a certain given provision, right? Understanding meaning of a certain provision which is given in the legislation. Now, why is interpretation needed? Because already the provision is written there in the statute, right? In the form of different provisions, sections, already it's there. Everything is clearly written. Like we have seen, there are some internal aids of interpretation. It comes with examples wherever needed. It comes with explanations. Even after that, why do we need interpretation? There are two reasons why interpretation is needed. Okay, first of all, the legislative language. Legislative language may be complicated for a layman, and that is the reason why interpretation is needed. Some words which are used in the legislation, it might be open to interpretations. Okay, it might be having 2-3 different meanings. That's why many a times you would see words are being defined also, starting of the legislation. Section 2 defines, or different sections provides for definitions also, just to make it very clear that, okay, this is what it means, this certain word means for the purpose of this legislation. But even after that, there still is a possibility that there may be some kind of confusion for people. Okay, and that is one of the reasons why interpretation is needed. During COVID, when it was made compulsory or it was made mandatory, that when you are outside, when you are roaming outside, you need to wear a mask. Okay, there one case was filed by a person saying that, okay, fine, while we are outside, we need to wear a mask. But what about it if I am driving my own vehicle and I'm the only person there inside the vehicle? Okay, everything, windows and everything is closed, door is closed. If I'm driving from one corner of the city to another corner of the city, is it still mandatory to wear a mask? Because I am in a public road, might be, but technically I am confined within a premises, right? It's my own vehicle. There is no excess of anyone else. I'm the only person driving. In such a case, is it mandatory to wear a mask or not? Okay, and that kind of confusion many a times people were having, right? That if I'm riding, I'm wearing a helmet already, do I still need to wear a mask? Right? I'm inside a car. There are only 2-3 people. They are family members. Do I still need to wear a mask? Those are nothing but where we need interpretation. And Supreme Court said in that particular case that, okay, fine, you might be driving your own vehicle. You might be the only person. But what happens when you travel from one part of the city to the other part? You are open, right? You are exposing yourself to other things as well, right? You would see mostly in case of traffic signals and all, people would come to sell certain things, right? Sunglasses, belt, pens, roses, balloons and whatnot. That means you are having excess, right? You might open your window glass and you might say that, no, I don't want to buy anything. Sometimes someone might ask you the road, sometimes someone might ask you something. So even if you are in a public, like private vehicle, it still would be considered as a public place. You still need to wear a mask. So that is nothing but where legislative language was complicated for a layman, right? Normal people thought, is it still necessary? What is a public place? Is my private vehicle a public place while I'm outside? Those kind of things we need interpretation. And another reason is legislative intent. Okay, interpretation may be needed to understand intention of the legislature behind introducing a statute. Fine, a certain statute was introduced, but with what purpose? With what motive? What was the reason behind introducing that legislation? For that also, interpretation might be needed. Okay, when we talk about a certain legislation, with what purpose was this legislation introduced? Is it serving the purpose or not? If not, maybe we need to make some changes, right? For those reasons also, interpretation becomes very important. And that's where objective of the legislation or preamble, these things play a vital role that helps us understand why this legislation was introduced at the first place. Okay, Okay, so these are some reasons why interpretation becomes necessary. Now, as we know, there can be multiple scenarios that may come before the court. Every case is different from the other. That's why we cannot apply one same rule in every single situation. Okay, we need different rules for interpretation as well. So these are some very common rules that are used by courts in interpreting a certain provision or in understanding or deriving meaning out of a certain provision given in a legislation. Okay, literal or grammatical rule, mischief rule, golden rule, harmonious construction rule. Okay, what are these 4 rules in simple way? Like literal or grammatical rule, we anyway say, right, that literally I was so frustrated. That means literally whatever this word means, that exact same way I am using it. Okay, same thing happens here also. When we say literal or grammatical rule, that means ordinarily when you use that certain word, whatever you understand, that same meaning in that same sense it would be applied. Okay, so ordinary, natural or popular or literal meaning, not like in law what it means. Like one day I think I told you what is negotiation, otherwise it means bargaining. But in our legislation that we have, Negotiable Instruments Act, it means the different kinds of negotiable instruments like check and all. So we are not considering that like that meaning which is applicable only for one specific legislation. But what is common when we say negotiation? Bargaining is more common, so that meaning we will be taking. Okay, so that is nothing but literal or grammatical rule, that whatever is the most common, most ordinary, most normal meaning of that word, we would take that particular word only and we will try to understand a certain provision. Okay, we don't need to apply our mind too much. Whatever is the common word, that we will try to apply. Okay, this is the first one. Now, what is mischief? Mischief, there is a offense also in IPC, if you have seen that. What is mischief?
Basically kind of pranking or doing something that could be harmful to the other person.
Okay, it is like destroying something or causing loss or something. Okay, like if I'm protesting, I can peacefully protest, that is fine. But if I start throwing, like stones and stuff, breaking glasses and all, that is nothing but mischief. Okay, because I'm damaging the glasses, windows, or I'm reducing its value or utility. Okay, that is mischief. That some problem is there. Otherwise, that window was working perfectly fine, but I damaged it. Okay, so mischief rule means some problem is there. Okay, mischief is some problem is there, and you need to fix that particular problem. Okay, with that intention, you will interpret the provision. That you introduced the legislation, that legislation became applicable, everything was fine, but there is some problem in the legislation. Because of that problem, it is not able to solve its purpose properly. So what we will do, we will try to remove this problem so that the legislation can solve its purpose. All right. So fines, mischief or defect in a statute. Statute is there, it is applicable also, but there is some defect or there is some mischief in it. So then what we will do is that by way of interpretation through mischief rule, we will try to provide remedy for the same. How can we fix this defect? That we will try. It closes loopholes in law and develops the law. It tries to interpret the law in such a way that this problem or this loophole can be fixed. Okay. So literal, whatever is the ordinary meaning, that you stick to. Don't need to apply your mind too much. Mischief, whatever is the problem, just try fixing that problem so that the statute can have some meaning. Okay, next is golden rule. If considering the natural meaning of the words leads to injustice, okay, or hardship or inconvenience, the court must modify the meaning to remove the injustice. Mostly we would apply the ordinary meaning, but it may happen that when you are applying the ordinary meaning, it is not serving the purpose. If you apply the ordinary meaning, it leads to injustice. It creates difficulty. In such a case, we don't want difficulty, right? So what we will do is we would try to mold it in such a way that that problem can be fixed, that hardship or that difficulty or that injustice can be fixed. That is nothing but golden rule. It is nothing but to fix the problems that may arise while using literal rule. Okay, otherwise we try to stick to the usual meaning. But if using usual meaning does not make sense, it on the other hand leads to injustice, in such a case we will apply golden rule, whereby we will try to fix the problem, fix the injustice, whatever is resulting. Okay, we just try to remove the injustice and give an interpretation. Is it clear?
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, could those injustice be the loopholes? Like loopholes and injustice can sound similar.
Say, when you see these things, right, these might look similar, that what is it? Everywhere problem is there, you are fixing problem only, all the rules are same, but there are slight differences. Okay, we will see that with the help of cases also. That time it would be more clear. Okay, right now you can simply remember this much. Once you read the cases, you would know, okay, this is the loophole and this is the injustice that is happening. Okay. Next is harmonious construction rule. So what is harmony?
Harmony, ma'am. And harmony, like to make peace.
Peace.
I think harmony.
Yes, peace. So harmonious construction rule. That means what may happen? There may be one single legislation only. Okay. One provision is saying something, another provision is saying something completely opposite. That means within one legislation itself, two provisions are conflicting with each other. In that case, what do you do? Which provision would you say that, okay, this is valid, this is invalid? How do you solve that problem? In that case, we try harmonious construction rule. We try to balance these two provisions. Okay, so this is applied when there is a conflict between two or more statutes or between two provisions of the same statute. Can we balance these two provisions in a certain way or not? That we will see. Okay, and in that direction only we will try to interpret the provision.
Okay.
Okay, is it clear till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we will see the rules as well. Okay, so what is the literal or grammatical rule?
Ma'am, in which we see the literal meaning of the word ordinary.
Yes, literal or ordinary meaning, what is commonly used. We will see that. We will just give a meaning. No need to apply our brain too much. Okay, so there was one case. Okay, state of Kerala. In this case, what happened is literal or grammatical rule was applied in order to interpret provisions of IPC. Okay, like currency notes. Currency notes, when we commonly use, we are not saying Indian currency or something, right? We are simply saying currency notes. That means it can include any currency, right? It has to be a currency note, not a coin. That is what ordinarily we mean, right? That currency note means entire India it can include. So ordinarily, when you hear the term currency notes, what would you understand? You would understand currency notes of any country, not specifically Indian, right? So that same way it was applied, that even dollars will also be included in this case. When we say currency note, because we are not specifying Indian currency or rupees or something, it would even include dollars. Okay, like one person, he was charged of some offenses, he was carrying some, I think, dollars or something, and then a case was filed and he said that no, IPC, how come it's applicable in dollars? It is just saying.
In this case, it was like he was forfeiting the currency.
Yeah, forfeiting the currency note. So when we talk about IPC, provisions should ideally apply in case of rupees, but it was said that it is just saying currency notes, so we can apply it in case of dollars as well. Correct. So this is nothing but again literal or grammatical rule, that because that is serving the purpose. He can be punished for forfeiture of this, right? Making fake currency notes and stuff. So that can be applied. It is not leading to any kind of problem. So we can stick to that interpretation itself.
Yes.
Okay. In case of mischief rule, like I said, some problem will be fixed. Now, what is the problem? There was one like a situation in 1960s, okay, in London. What happened is prostitutes were soliciting in streets of London. Okay, now this problem was taking place in streets of London. Now, in order to address that problem, what happened is they introduced the legislation, which is Street Offences Act 1959. That means whatever offense you are committing in streets, that they will be punishing. So they were restricted from soliciting in streets of London under this legislation. But now what they did is, even after this legislation was passed, they continued with their practice, but they were not soliciting in streets, but rather they started soliciting from windows and balconies. Ultimately, whom are they soliciting? Whoever is passing by in that road, right? People are using the road, that person only they are targeting. But where are the prostitutes standing? Maybe windows or balconies. So when case was filed, they said that we are not committing any offense in the streets. And this legislation is applicable for offenses committed in streets only. Whatever we are doing it from our windows or balconies. So this should not apply to us. And in that case, it was realized that there is a problem here. This entire legislation itself was introduced to address this problem, and we are not being able to address this problem. Right? What we are doing, this problem is anyways continuing. So they applied mischief rule and they said that, okay, fine, we are using the word street. Okay, but windows and balconies are also included. Okay, windows and balconies were taken to be an extension of the word street. That also will be included and they can be punished under this as well. So this is nothing but mischief rule. If your entire legislation itself is becoming meaningless, what you can do is you can try to fix the gap. Whatever is the problem, that you can try to fix so that legislation makes some sense. Okay. Another case is there where what happened is a person was selling sweetened supari. Okay, sweetened supari he was selling with the help of some artificial sweetener. Whatever he was using, that was artificial sweetener. He was prosecuted under Food Adulteration Act because it was some artificial things were being used. Case was filed against him under Food Adulteration Act. Now, what he said is that as such, when we talk about food, what do we understand? We understand maybe rice, dal and stuff. But supari is not something which we consume like a food, right? It's something like mouth freshener or something you can say. So he said that as such, supari is not a food item. Okay, and because of that, it cannot be applied to me. This legislation cannot be applied to me. Now, here if you are applying the literal rule, when you hear the term food, food definitely means something which we eat, right? Rice, dal and stuff we would mean. We would not say that, okay, I'm having my food. What am I having? I'm having supari. That like that we would not say if we consider the literal rule. That means if we try to apply the literal rule, it would have some problems also, right? And there was this defect in this legislation itself. Food Adulteration Act, entire legislation was introduced with the purpose that whatever we are consuming, that should be safe for us. So if we are eating supari also and we are saying that, okay, it is not included in food, that means this legislation is having some defect, right? There is some problem in it. There is some mischief in it and we need to fix it. So what happened is the court held that dictionary meaning is not always correct meaning. Mischief rule must be applicable. Interpretation which advances remedy shall be taken into consideration, and court held that food is consumable by mouth. Whatever you can consume by mouth and orally, that only is included as food. Even though generally we don't say I'm having food and what I'm having is supari, but still whatever we can consume by mouth and orally, that all those things would be considered as food, because the main purpose of introducing this legislation was that we should, whatever we are eating, that should be safe for us. Okay, so like that, this problem was again fixed in this case. Okay, so mischief rule problems will be fixed. Now, we have golden rule. What happened in this case is the golden rule of interpretation was applied to interpret provision relating to limitation to proceed with an appeal under Land Acquisition Act. In general, when we talk about limitation, it just mentions that there is a certain limit within which you can file a case. But in every single case, if we consider this limitation, right, it might not be providing justice. If we talk about the literal meaning that, okay, limitation means some limit is there. If you are exceeding the limit, you cannot file a case. If we are using the literal meaning of the term, it might not provide justice in every case. So some cases, exception might also be given. So golden rule can be applied in order to fix the problem. They will say, is this provision of appeal which is mentioned in Land Acquisition Act, is it serving the purpose or not? That should be given more preference rather than considering what does limitation mean. Okay, similarly, there was another case where there was a transporting company, okay, and that was carrying a parcel of apples. And it was charged that along with apples, what happened is there were some opium that was also carried, but in the invoice which they had shown, it only mentioned regarding apples. Okay, so charge sheet was filed that you were carrying opium as well. And it was said that they claimed, this transporting company claimed that no, we had no knowledge about it. We just knew that we are carrying apples. That's all. We were not having any knowledge about it. So when we talk about this legislation, right, it says that whatever vehicle, Section 11 of the Act provides that the vehicle shall be confiscated, but by applying the literal rule of interpretation for this provision, it is leading to injustice. In every single case, it might not be necessary that you confiscate the vehicle because they were not having knowledge of it also. And that might be a true situation also, right? In such cases, confiscating the vehicle in itself might not be necessary. That would not lead to justice. That would lead to injustice for the transporting company because unnecessarily their business would stop, right? Until the case is pending, they would not be able to use the truck. So it was said that when we are using literal meaning, it is not serving the purpose, it is giving injustice. So what we can rather say is that even though legislation mentions that the vehicle shall be confiscated, we will replace the word shall with may. Because only if it is necessary, in such cases, it would be confiscated. If it was done without even knowledge of transporting company, in such cases, it does not make sense or it does not give justice confiscating the vehicle. So in that direction, we need to understand it. We should not stick only to the literal meaning because sometimes it may lead to injustice. There we need to mold it in such a way that we can provide justice to the parties. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I understood the rule. But ma'am, what if they knew that we were transporting it? Like they are just lying about it.
Yeah, in that case, it is maybe confiscated. Court can, if it's proved that, okay, they were having knowledge, everything would be proved by way of evidences, right? If it is proved, it may be confiscated. Court is having the discretion. If court is satisfied, they were having knowledge, court would confiscate. If court is not satisfied, court will not do. Discretion is given basically. It's not an obligation or mandatory on the part of court. Okay, so that is how it would be fixed. Next is harmonious construction. Mainly it is applicable when two provisions are conflicting with each other. Okay, so this is mostly applicable in case of parliamentary privileges that are applicable under Constitution. Okay, on the one hand, press is given the freedom, just like how we have right freedom of speech and expression, right? Which article do we have that?
Maybe article 20. No, I think 20.
Article 19.
19.
Okay. Yeah. So Article 19, Clause 1, Clause A gives us freedom of speech and expression. Same ways, under the same provision, press is also given that freedom, that whatever is true that they can publish, they can let the public know. Okay, that is a freedom which is given to them under Constitution itself. Plus, at the same time, Parliament is given a privilege that whatever proceedings are there in the Parliament, right? Some parts they might say that in this entire parliamentary proceeding, this certain part you should not publish it. You should not put it in public domain because might be something is confidential, something is there like defense and all. Everything is not disclosed to the public, right? So these certain things you need not disclose, like that they can say. So in such a case, this was also one of such cases, MSM Sharma versus Krishna Sinha. So they had said that this certain part should not be published, but it got published, media published it. So court said that we need to apply it harmoniously. We cannot say that parliamentary privileges do not exist, or we can't say that media is not having any kind of powers or something. Both these two provisions should balance with each other. That means otherwise media is having freedom to publish whatever is required for public to know, they are having a freedom. But in some cases, if there is a reason why Parliament is saying this certain provision you should not publish, there it has to be like a balance because both the things make sense, right? So like that, we need to balance two different provisions and we would apply it accordingly. Okay? Because two different things are saying two different, like two provisions are saying two different things. How can we balance both the things? Because both the things are required, right? So that is how it would be applied. Okay, so we have few more questions on interpretation. Maybe we will continue with that in the next class.
Okay, ma'am.
Hey, before we continue, I wanted to inform you about my live mentorship program for LLB students or law aspirants. Law subjects and law topics need detailed clarity. We get that with the help of cases, examples, and detailed explanation. It's definitely not possible to include everything in these short videos. If you find my videos easy to understand and you are looking for some professional help in preparing for your examination, you can join my live mentorship program. Here you will be getting exam tips, answer writing skills, detailed notes that you can refer for your examination, cases, examples, and in a very easy way topics will be explained. I have live classes going on for a lot of subjects as of now. To know more about it, you can drop me a message on this WhatsApp number. I'm also helping a lot of students in writing their assignments. If you need any such help or for any queries, any suggestions, you can drop me a message on this WhatsApp number. And now let's continue with our video.